I say regularly, and remind you regularly, and the need to remind you regularly, that this whole training is very much an emotional journey, an emotional experience. It's not a mental one. It's emotional. We're dealing with our emotions. It's a doing. When you do, you come in contact with who you are. And the danger of it becoming too cerebral, too much up here, is that it's so easy to become detached from yourself and live in a dualistic thinking world and put a space between that and who you are and the experience that you're having. It becomes a barrier, and you get lost in what is something actually that doesn't exist. It's, from the neck up we create, it's a dream. It can play its part and has its place in the scheme of things, but I think this applies to all Dharma practice actually, but for us, we have the simplest form of training that you could imagine. It's there's very little that you need to know conceptually in order to put this practice in place, in order to engage with it. You really don't need very much, as we've touched on many times, and also on this retreat. So therefore, we don't need to be cerebral at all, or very little. It has its place. We need to sift sometimes and get a sense of where we're going and what it's about. Of course, we need to do that, but then when we've done that, we put it to one side because it's done its job. We then come into the real aspect of training, which, as I say, is an emotional, is essentially an emotional experience, an emotional transformation, and that emotion takes place in the body. Our emotions are in the body. This is a physical thing that we do. And we sit there with our emotions in our body. And we need to recognise that and not retreat to our head and get lost in fantasies, but to come out of the head and come into the body, discover the body, and discover your emotions, which are very much, well, they go hand in hand. When you have an emotional experience, you're having a physical experience, mental as well, but essentially physical. It's driven physically, especially when there's strong desire, or strong aversion, strong delusion. They're emotionally driven and strong, and fear, which is very much an emotion, and experienced physically. So it's physical. And that's what we need to be careful that we don't turn away from that and retreat into our heads and into the duality of it and the fantasies and the concepts that it's continually creating, and expect to find ourselves there and expect to find liberation in that. What is a dream? What is it? You come to see as a dream world. Is that actually, when you look closely enough, there isn't anything there. I don't know if you've ever managed to do that. But the very thing that we get trapped by, that we get led around, actually, when you look closely enough to try to find it, have you ever found them? Have you ever found these thoughts? This person in your head, have you ever found this person? And yet it becomes the great burden. You suffer because of this, and yet when you look for it, you can't find it. And if you do find it, it'll be very interesting. Let me know what it looks like, what sort of shape it is, what colour it is. Any sort of characteristics like that that's discernible, please. I'll be fascinated to know. And yet we can't, and yet we're completely seduced by it. We live in our heads to the extent that actually so many of us don't even know we've got a body. We're completely up here, lost in the clouds. And yet, if we want to do this training correctly, and if we want to get to know the truth of things and open up and find reality, We have to go in the opposite direction. We have to come into the body, into the material. Because that material body actually contains a lot more than the material. It's not just a piece of meat. There's a whole lot more going on in there than your wildest imaginations could even begin to conjure up, actually. But in order to discover the mysteries that the body contains, we have to be there. How are you going to find it when you're off somewhere else? When you're up in the clouds, how are you going to know what it's about down here? You've got to come into it. You've got to learn to live in it, learn to be with it, learn to acknowledge it, to bring your meditation. And when you start off your meditation, yes, you're in your head. You're caught by your thoughts and blah 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 that's going on, and then this awareness allows these things to fall away, and then you find this stillness and this openness. Where do you think you are? Do you think you're still in your head? That's what we. Of course, I'm in my head. Well, actually, if you stay with it and you get to know it more and more, you'll find that you're not. If you're anywhere at all, if you are anywhere, at least provisionally, you're actually in your body, mysteriously. Well, that doesn't make a lot of sense, but actually you are. Your awareness, that stillness, is actually is something that, as I say, if it has a centre, if it has a home, it's in the body. And so therefore you need to be there, acknowledge it, and turn your attention and open up to the body and see what it contains, what's there. Apart from the physical stuff, which we all know about anyway, we all know about the physical anatomy. We don't need medical lectures about that. We've all got a pretty good idea of the way it's all laid out and how it works. But there's more to it than that. There's this thing called the life force, which mysteriously nobody's ever yet managed to find, that actually abides and emanates from your body. That's your true home, that's where you really are, that's who you are. That life force, the mystery of the life force. And the life force is also an aspect of your emotion. Actually, the life force is everything, including the physical. That's part of its mystery, it's everything. But in its refined state, it's this mystery that who I am. And mixed up with who I am is our emotions. Our emotions are actually our life force, but they get appropriated and distorted by this self notion. And that life force becomes the tool, becomes the driving force, the chaitana as it's called, of grasping. I want, I must have, or I must get away from, I don't like. The driving force there, that we call emotion, is in the body. When there's more to the life force than meets the eye. It's not just a wild thing. It certainly is a wild and very destructive it can be, as we all know. Without that destructive propensity, there wouldn't be the conflict we see in the world. It's driven by emotion, which is the property of the self, self-interest, self-motivation. It becomes its property. And we see how powerful it is, and because it's powerful, it's very difficult to control. It's more powerful than what we are when it raises up through a desire. We can't stop ourselves. It possesses us, it takes us and carries us, and the best will in the world often we can't let it go. It just propels us continually, and it takes us to all sorts of unskillful places, or places where we don't be, places that we know are not conducive to well-being, and yet we can't stop ourselves. That drive there that we can't stop, never mind the mental aspect of it, there has to be a life there has to be energy there. We call them the emotions. And as we all know, when they really flare up, they can be incredibly destructive. Not just destructive, but also literally uncontrollable. And we can do anything when they really rage. And yet there's a part of us that we want to go beyond the enslavement, because that's what we are. We're enslaved to these emotions, because, as I say, when push comes to shove, with the plaything of our emotions, however they may manifest. So, in order to fulfill our aspirations within training, we have to acknowledge this. We have to acknowledge that we have to tame the wildness that pulls us around. And it's only when they're tamed, when they're quiet, when they're not exerting themselves, do we find space and openness. You can't be in a raging temper and have stillness at the same time. We couldn't be further away from it. So we have to, like the restlessness we spoke about yesterday, as being a very important component of the human makeup that's preventing us to finding true liberation. We have to give that attention and consider it in a very serious manner. We also have to look and acknowledge the importance of taming the emotions, because when the emotions are up, you're not in stillness, you're not anywhere near your true nature, you're lost in something that you're just perpetuating. There's no stillness, there's no insight, there's nothing, you're blind. Emotions make you blind. They turn you into a mad thing as well. So this is an important component. This is not, we can't not give that any attention and then just go off into this meditation, the technique that we're doing, and then wonder why we don't fulfill these things. We don't even bother to give that aspect of us any great deal of attention, but we need to do that. With our training, it's central, it's heart, because we're not interested in the neck up, it's the neck down. So, awakening and seeing the emotion, getting to know the emotions, how they work, what they're about, seeing what triggers them off, and what they do when they're triggered, is a part of the awakening process. We have to give them attention when they're around, get to know them, get to see them in the round, that they are very much something that blinds us, but actually they are also the path that leads us to our true nature. Because those emotions are a part of the life force. They're not separate. It's not the devil out there that's going to get you. There's just some mix-up that's going on in here. It gets mixed. It gets mixed up, and it's about learning to tame them so they can go back into what is their true nature, what is their true reality. So they're not alien. They're not something that you want to sort of dump, cut away from yourself, but you want to get to know, you've got to learn how to work with these, so that it's like, as I've often likened it, taming a wild horse, so that it becomes tame, so that it becomes something of use to you, is that you have to do it skillfully. You can't just charge at it. You've got to be very, very skillful. There's a process of give and take. And with your emotions, again, it's not a case of leaping on top of them. Well, you won't win anyway, because that's just going to make it all worse. But this is where the willfulness can come, where you try to suppress them. You do it through understanding, you do it through kindness, you do it through commitment, through a commitment to, as much as you can, restrain that wildness. We call it containment, we call it sitting with, staying with, learning to bear with patience and endurance, kashanti, paramita, kashanti. That's all to do. Patient endurance is about emotion. Endurance is about enduring your emotions, enduring the physicality of this training, of taming the physicality, the physical, not the mental, the physical, of learning to bear with and to stay with that wildness until it tames. And that whole experience, that whole commitment to doing that, is in the body. There's mental pictures that go along that actually cause to confuse you, cause to make you run in different directions and do different things. But actually, if we only not buy into the 10,000 things, just don't get seduced and pulled around by all the different pictures we get in our heads, pictures and thoughts, and actually see beneath them all, that's the veneer, beneath them all there is something there that unites them all, and it comes back to something very simple, that we don't need to get lost in the 10,000 things. Where you lost forever is to get down in where they're all coming from. Where's the source of these? They've got to be born somewhere. They've got to have a life from somewhere. Get to the life force and tame the life force. And when you tame the life force, the 10,000 things will vanish. They will not be there. They will not have the power that they have. They will be tame. They will be benign. They'll be transparent. There'll be little things that come and go. Maybe they don't even bother to come anymore. They come and go. And they're not something that possesses you any longer. We need to get to the source. If you go to the 10,000 things, you'll be here forever. From one to the other. Now I'm going to deal with this one. Now I'm going to deal, and that's what you do in the world. You're not going to deal with 10,000 things, as the expression goes. More like more than 10,000. Actually, it's infinite. You get rid of one picture, another one will come. Get rid of that one, another one will come. No infinite. Actually, there's more than 10. There's more than 10,000. Turn away from the seduction and the conviction that you can sort it all out by playing around with these things. Be skillful, take wisdom, learn to be wise about these things. Get to the source of it. Get to the source. Without that source, these things can't exist. Get right down and you'll find it all comes down to one area, one thing. Then you can deal with that. It's not complicated anymore. And that's why you need to come into the body, come into the emotions and see where they're coming from, what they're about, where they're born, where they come into being, and what is their nature, what is their true nature, not the nature that you experience, but what actually is their true nature. And how do I get them back to their true nature? And it becomes very uncomplicated. It is not in the slightest bit easy. But there's a difference between making it complicated and finding the simplicity of it. You can find the simplicity of it, but that simplicity is not something that you can pull off easily. But it's something that you can see and know about it and not get lost and confused. Always come back to that simplicity of dealing with the heart of the world is born, where the world emanates from, but you then chase and get caught by and suffer. Come back into the source. And that's in your body. You'll never find that in your head. You'll never find anything other than the 10,000 things up there. Their lifeblood, their very oxygen is in your body, is in your emotions. Get down here, get down, come into the heart and come lower where the engine room is. There. And give your attention. And actually you can bring the whole of your training, actually, including when you're walking down the road, not just on the cushion. You can actually be in the physical and know that you're in the physical, and know and be alive to the feelings that you have, and know that this is where it's all happening. This is where you're going to find samsara, how it all knits together. And beyond that, you're going to find wisdom. You're going to find your true nature, how things work, reality, awakening, everything is here. This is a distraction, and this is to fool you, to take you away, so that you always run trying to work it all out. And it works, because most of us fall for that. That's the game. We get lost in the game. But there's a part of us that knows. There's always a part of us that knows. And we begin to access that when we learn to be still. You don't access it in this thing, whizzing around. You access it when you drop this and come into the heart of the thing. And that part of you that knows, that actually that is not caught by this, but paradoxically is not separate from it. And you begin to say, well, this is where I'm going to find my liberation, is to come into the body and to get to know it. not physical, although that's not separate, because that it affects your physicality, because it's not separate. This is why you get so many illnesses. Not because we picked up something, it's because we're in such turmoil with ourselves that we lose equanimity, and then things start to go wrong. We get aches and pains, and all sorts happen. In fact, most illnesses actually come from that malaise that we have. And the more, as I say, the more you can see, the more this is where it's all happening. This is where the show is. Like the real show is going on here. Not the shadowy thing, not the reflection that's up here, that's just a mirage, but actually it's in the body. And you need to turn your attention. This is exactly why when we start our meditation, I've asked you to put your attention in your body down here. I could so easily have given you all sorts of things up here, breath counting, which is one, and different things with touch around your nose. That's all part of that form of meditation, anapanasati. But one of them is in the body, right down here, and the rise and fall of the other. This is what I ask you to go there. And go there and become familiar with coming into the body. That's what I'm asking you to do. And begin to get the habit of coming into the body and being there. And actually you're really down there, although you're only observing the rise and fall of the abdomen. Actually you are absolutely right at the heart of the whole deal, the whole business. Everything is happening there. This is where the world is manufactured. All the gubbins, all the bits that go to make up what we are, is all taking place here. All the components are there. Not only the samsara and the suffering and the emotion and the emotions that drive so much of this, But actually, the other side is also the place of your liberation. Where your samsara is your nirvana. They are both one. They're not two separate things, one here and one there. Another part of the great mystery to be discovered for yourself. And so, it's crucial to recondition, it is a condition, to recondition yourself. And actually, the more you can turn, and the more, if you can begin to open and begin to make these sorts of discoveries that I'm talking about, you won't want to be up here. Because this is just rubbish. And everyone's not going to get you anywhere. You want to be down here, because this is a fantastic place to be. It is full of adventure and discovery. And not just ordinary discovery, but discovery that you can't even begin to imagine. This is not just a physical, you are in the physical, but that's opening the door that begins to take you into what is the life force itself. That's the mystery. The thing that even now, with our great advancements, we don't know. We haven't put our finger on it yet. We don't know where it is. Well, that's a part of the mystery. Where is it? What is it? What's going on? Well, when you come into your body, you can begin to answer those questions. Go looking, go looking. This is the whole aspect of vipassana, of vipassana of insight. This is the way we pursue that crucial aspect of our training. Our form of vipassana. Our vipassana is not a conceptual, it is not a formula, but it is actually, it's a physical adventure that's open. It's an open forum for you to go and investigate and to find and discover for yourself and begin to unlock the mysteries and begin to see how you create your own suffering. And that's the key, and that's what we need to get understanding into and get to see all the bits and pieces that slot together to make it possible, so that we can begin to discover that, so that we can begin to, when we see it, when we know it, it begins to unravel. And in that very same place there, you will discover the great mystery of life, who you are, who you really are. You'll see the bit that you think you are, then you discover the bit that you really are. And once you begin to get a taste of that, God, you don't want this. This is just, it's really an incredibly boring place to be, actually. Because it's so predictable. To come here, the treasures, the openings that can begin to happen. And we do that, you know, the emotions are very central to this journey, because the emotions, as I say, the emotions, when they are present, they blind you. You become blind, and you become possessed by this notion of a me. Without the emotions, this me thing, this I, sense of I, you won't have it. It's not that it would die, because there's actually nothing there to die as it happens. This is all part of the mystery that will just enthrall you and capture you. And see that the major part your emotions play in your sense of being lost, in your sense of suffering. See and not somehow see them as some practice see them as a what do they call it? Kalaisha, a defilement or a hindrance. You say, oh, I want a hindrance, push it out of the way. That hindrance there is your awakening. that hindrance there is the Buddha, is who you really are. And if you're going to push it away, you're never going to know. You may be able to push it out of the way and get something from doing that. That's not a completely hopeless thing. And of course they hinder you, and they agitate you, create the agitation so that you don't see. But in order to see, you have to know the hindrance. You have to bring it and see it and know it. Make friends to see that there's a conflict there. Hindrance is a conflict. See the conflict and see how you heal the conflict, how you make friends, how you embrace and make friends with something that you have a conflict with. That's you, that hindrance is you, that hindrance is not from the outside. It's not the devil that comes. There's so many people in the world. We don't do devils. The only devils that we have are ones that we create. We create them, therefore we need to get to know them, so we uncreate, get to know their nature, what they're about, and then we can uncreate them. And we uncreate them by letting them go, by not feeding them anymore. We don't dismantle them physically, we just leave them alone. That's called dismantling. We don't do anything, actually. We don't do hindrances. That's slicing you up. You might want to look at it and say, well, that will state the obvious, that it's obviously something that is hindering you, that's getting in the way. But you've got to have the right relationship with that, and you can't turn it into an enemy, to turn it into a negative, which is, a hindrance is a negative. How can it be anything else if you use that word, and you have that idea around it? Surely it becomes a negative, and becomes a source of conflict, of duality. I don't get that, but that I do get it. I do understand that actually that can work in a particular way, and be useful in a particular way, and get you, as it were, to a particular place. I can understand that, but ultimately, and if you want the totality, understand the totality, without picking and choosing, without putting labels on. You embrace the hindrance the same as you embrace other things that you want to embrace. You embrace it and you get to know it. And then what was a hindrance, what was something that impeded you, becomes your friend, becomes something that actually helps you. Because its nature is one of wisdom, actually. It's just a distortion. Its nature is one of coming from the life force. It is the life force. And you're returning it to the life force so that it enhances, so that it fills and these blockages are no longer there. Not because you've pushed them away, but because you've embraced them and they've melted away and melted back into the... That's how we do it. We don't have any enemies. We don't have any hindrances. Everything is Buddha. Literally. With that spirit. And we discover this the more that we can see that, in this very place of all of this emotions and stuff, there's something very rich and something very wonderful. And it's all, ultimately it is all one. There is not the two. And there is certainly not the fragmented. There is only the one. And we're not going to know that by stopping in our heads. We may be able to make some inroads up there with our dualism. We need to come into the body and know that, and acknowledge, not saying, oh, I'm in my body, but actually saying, this is where my training takes place. It's not just a place where I happen to find myself, and that doesn't matter. But actually, this is exactly where you want to be, because it's here that you discover, that you see, that you know. And the motions in the body, this is the vessel, this is the sort of almost tangible one. Physical is the tangible. And that motion is the material, is the vessel, is where you're going to find your liberation. And that's why I made those two of the pillars, not for nothing. Because they're not important, they're vital. They're not negotiable. You've got to give, okay, it's a concept. You've got to give those concepts space. This is where the head comes in. You've got to give them space. You've got to see the importance of what they're pointing to. And then when you can accept that and see the importance and really let it sink in, then you can action, you come out there and you can start tasting the ice cream rather than theorising about it. Then you taste it. And the pillars are about tasting. They're concepts, but they're things you have to action on. And they're not small things, they're not incidentals, it's not if you like. It's if you want to know, if you want this to bear the fruit that it promises you, then these are not options. Sooner or later, however long it may take, however many times you may read and think about, you've got to start to action on these principles. See, this is your makeup, but it's within your makeup that you find your liberation. It's not from that, it's that, it's all one. Your suffering and your liberation are not two. And those pillars, I like to think, are confident, will give you, will show you what you need to become alive to and begin to engage with action on the restless. You have to stop. Restlessnesses. This is clearly an important thing, and then put it down. You've got to bring it into your life. You've got to action it and begin to face up to what you're caught by and begin to do something about it. This is about doing, and until you do, it doesn't work. And coming into the body is a huge challenge for us. All of this is a huge challenge because we are so conditioned. We're just so conditioned away from wisdom. It's amazing how it all works. All these things that they're all taking you away from finding the truth, to knowing the truth. And we all get caught. We get caught by this. We get caught by our emotions, caught by our restlessness. They're all taking us away. It's wonderfully the way it's almost like it's the plan. The plan is working. I've got them. They're all chasing all of these things. Well, there's a part of you that actually never buys that. Never buys it. And that's the bit you've got to find. And you won't find it out there. And you won't find it up here. You find it when you become still. And when you're still, you're in your body. And there you begin to have the opportunity to suss it out. Why you are habitually caught, why you are caught in this samsara that you feed, that you can do nothing about. Now when you come into that place of stillness, you're then on the threshold of actually being able to go beyond suffering, because you've found the place that is not suffering, that is beyond suffering, that has never suffered. You've touched it. You've come into it. Recognized it for the first time in your life, actually. Now you know what this is about. Of course, we've all had stillness sometime in our life. We just have a nice quiet periods with ourselves, even in our busyness. Even if we're lying in bed, we can be. But we don't really know where we are. We don't know what that is. It's just part of me. Sometimes I'm like this. But actually, what we do, we're touching a place that is a doorway that can take you beyond the angst of life. That otherwise we spend most of our life trying to find the cure for that by running after things, looking for that fulfillment, looking to deal with the sense of separation and loneliness. We spend our life running, looking, even though we may not be see it in those terms. That's what we're doing. Everything is about trying to avoid that and look for that fulfillment and think that we can find it in activity and in doing things and collecting things, and including people, but never putting it off. We're going in the wrong direction. We're doing it completely wrong. It's called ignorance, avidya. But when you become still, you begin to touch. You begin to come to a part of you. As I say, you may have touched it in the past, but you've never known. You've certainly never made use of it. But now you begin to find a place that can give you the salvation that you've been looking for all of your life. So it's stillness, the platform, silence, the silence of silent illumination, the silence, the stillness, the familiarity of the first Buddha. All of that's in your body, as you will see, and as you'll begin to embrace, because for the first time in your life you're looking in a completely different place than you've ever looked. It's given you a new way of looking, of trying to get to the bottom of your dilemma. And that's why the body is so important, just to let you know that you're not going to get to the bottom of your dilemma by looking in your head. I don't care what you do in your head. I don't care how smart you are, and how much you know about Buddhism, and how much you know about even know about dharma practice, which is only an idea, it's only a concept. because you know about practices of dharma, that doesn't mean that you're licking the ice cream. That's just as useless as anything else in the world until you start to lick it. But you've got to know how to lick it, and you've got to do these things in the right way. Because if you're not careful, you just create more and more ideas and things. And just to have the idea that you need to incorporate the whole of you in this pursuit it's revolutionary, and you just hope that people who practice the Dharma realise that. This isn't an intellectual exercise. And I tell you, you go and read things these days, the way so much of this is developing in the West. You go on and you've got the internet. You look around at Western Buddhism, and I look with absolute openness, and not that it's only if it comes my way. I don't make a thing of it. But occasionally this thing called Western Buddhism comes along, and I take a bit of interest because what we're doing is Western. This is a Western group. This isn't an Eastern group. This is a Western Sangha. And the Dharma doesn't belong to Buddhism, and we're pursuing the Dharma. So we're not tied up with any of that. So we are also Western. So I look to see the parallel. As I say, I don't make a big deal of it, but I'm so disappointed when I look around, and I look at these practices and the talk and the instruction and just the whole philosophy, if you like, of the whole thing. And I hardly see any of it going past the neck. I don't see it, and that's just so Western. If anything you want to describe Westerners is that Westerners live from the neck up. Easterners don't. Buddhism historically doesn't exist from the neck up. Absolutely not. It exists from the neck down. Absolutely from the neck. It is so from the neck down that it doesn't even bother to mention it. It's taken for granted that whoever comes across the training and the practices just by default, you're doing it from the body, where else would you do it? What are you talking about from the neck up? You don't do the neck up. You do the neck down. That's connected with the earth, with nature, being at one with things. That's the way that it's been. And we've managed to develop this thing and estranged ourselves from where our feet are, but estranged, and that includes from where we really are, which is in the body. Our body and the ground are one, and not separate. This is the separation. And I read these things, and I so don't want to read what I'm reading, and I cannot. I don't know. It's probably there because I don't make a big study of it, and I'm not condemning it all. But when I read about Western Buddhism, it's about from the neck up. I don't know how you define the word spiritual training, because this is spiritual training. Where's the spiritual aspect? Where is it in that? Where is it? What part does it play? Where is it? How do you define it? Because I don't see for a moment how you can define anything spiritual from the neck up. It can't be. Spirituality is found here. Spirituality is beyond the duality. It's in the end, it's something quite mysterious. The spirit that can't be defined. You can't put it in a box, and yet it permeates. It permeates and has massive influence, and it engenders so much of the human qualities. I don't. They must be there somewhere. But if I don't see this as part of this thing called Western Buddhism. It's certainly not Eastern. You wouldn't find any of that in the East. This is brand new stuff. Absolutely brand new stuff that's arrived in the last, since the mid-late 60s, I suppose, when it started all off. We must be very careful not to buy into the thing that we've been entrapped to anyway, that we're caught by this. But somehow we can work everything out. We can find liberation up here, we can find nirvana and awakening by pursuing all sorts of different ways up here, and just not okay, we've got this piece of meat here. Of course we all know that, and of course it is, well, that's what it is, but it's much more than that. It's the whole universe is in your body. Do you know that? When you truly know yourself, maybe this is something for Buddha. And I'm not sure the Buddha didn't say that. But when you really know the body and you know what it's all about, you know the whole universe. It is something truly mysterious, and it goes way beyond what you would think that it is, and what us people in the West have decided what it is. A material thing, full stop. Doesn't even recognise the immaterial, and yet it's painting the obvious it's there. Can't find it, and it's marginalised. How much of that gets integrated into medicine and into curing things? It's all got to be material. We've completely lost the mystery of the body. And yet that's exactly where liberation is. And it's nowhere else. It cannot be anywhere else. The whole universe can open up and you can discover everything there. Find your true nature and open the door. It's here, in the body, in the emotions are very much a reflection, not a hindrance, not an impediment, but is actually the Buddha. It is the warmth in the heart of who we truly are. And it's all here. And so we must, as practitioners, and certainly with our training, because we don't have anything conceptual to be concerning ourselves with. We don't do formulas and stuff that we somehow got to perfect. We steady ourselves and we drop into this mystery and open up to it, into the body, and then see all of, and I say the emotions are such a major, follow the emotions, get to know them, learn to tame them, learn to see how that which you become a victim of, that you become enslaved to, is actually your liberation. It's the Buddha. So that's introducing you to those aspects. Not small things, big things. And I don't think, as I say, I don't think you can fulfill this particular type of practice until you begin to open up and begin to acknowledge, see, know and embrace this physical form. Come in and do your training through your body, into the body, engage with it, have it with you all the time. It's not up here, but in here. And all the components and all the experiences that you have, all your feelings and emotions that go to make you up as a warm-blooded mammal. Open and embrace and get to know and say, this is the heart of my training. It's all here. And if you do that, then you become more familiar. It's a habit. You acknowledge, you open, and then you will discover. So, that's enough for today.